Alright, how's she going, eh? That Turbo 350 I kind of put on the back burner for now. I'll get her done. It's one of those things I'm just gonna have to give her all the way. Doesn't matter how many videos I watch, whatever. Um, I'm just gonna have to get at it and see how she goes. But I got myself a little side job here. Fella I know through another guy that I used to work with. He has a 67 Country Squire station wagon. It has a pretty nice body and stuff on it. It's been painted and everything, but the motor and trans aren't in it. So he had a motor that was a bare block all sitting in parts, and he had this one that was complete. So I grabbed this one and I kind of deciphered it's out of a 74 Ford truck. It's a 390, and it's a bloody shame, let me tell you. Someone left it outside, and I could tell as soon as I took the valve covers off that it was very clean, and I could tell the umbrella seals were new. So it was my first hunch. Then when I got the heads off, well, I pulled the intake off, and it was quite clean, and all that crap, that's part of a blue tarp. It must have sat outside, the blue tarp on it, and got rained in. But I bet you this motor's got, I don't know, it's hard to see. Can you see that? I bet you this motor's got 10,000 miles on it max. Real shame to do all the work and then let it sit outside. So if you're a procrastinator and you leave a motor outside and you plan on getting it on the inside sooner than later, but you don't, you're going to have the same issue. So I would suggest, if there's any chance of you doing that, I would store your motor upside down outside. So valve covers down, oil pan up. And if you do that, you probably won't ever have this problem unless you put it in like a ditch or a real low spot and the thing just gets swamped. But yeah, not a good thing. So anyhow, I think I'll clean up quite nice. I haven't been into one of these motors for a while. I've had only two in my life. I've had a 71 Highboy F250 with a 360, and it always seemed to run okay, but I thought it was a gas guzzling pig, and no power. It was just, yeah, it was what it was, but it wasn't much of a motor. Like a 306, I think, was better than that thing. I don't care what the numbers say. And I had a 71 with the 390, and the 71 with the 390 was a clean old truck. It was quite a fancy truck for the time. It had the toolbox in the bottom of the box and all that. And it wasn't the fastest truck in the world, but it was all right on fuel. Like, by all right, I mean compared to like a 460 or something, because I've had them too. And it went okay. I'd say it got better mileage than a 460, that's for sure. But in a drag race, my 79 460 would have ate it. But pulling, the 390 did very well in my 71 390. It pulled real good. Like, loaded to unloaded, it wasn't much difference. And it was a 2-barrel. I think they were rated at 255 horse. And it just ran out of carb. And I put a 500 CFM 2-barrel on it, actually, Holly. It just ran out of carb and cam, and the exhaust manifolds are garbage, so it didn't rev too good. But it would squawk the tires off the line and whatnot. But yeah, one of the biggest things with these motors is the exhaust manifolds. The bolts go through, so they get all rusted, and when you go to back them out, they're going to break off on you every time. And they always have cracked exhaust manifolds. They're just an awful bloody design. It's just the worst manifold ever. I don't have one here, but it's not a good design, and they're very prone to cracking. So once I got kind of dealing on this motor for the guy, it got me thinking. And my buddy Wes, I don't see him much anymore, but he's about the best friend a person could ever ask for. He's got a 66 Ford pickup, like a half-ton, 2-wheel drive. It's a 3-speed manual, but it's been converted to floor shift. It's got 373s with a 9-inch, and it has a 352, and it's an FE motor as well. And I will tell you this, I don't care what numbers say, nothing. That was the fastest old farm truck I've ever been in my life. That 352 2-barrel thing with that 3-speed and 373s, it would just rip to $5,000. Like, it was faster than my 460. It was probably, like I say, it was the fastest old farm truck I've ever been in my life. So we're going to refresh that up, put a set of shorty headers on that one, and he's already got an intake on it, put in some cam and just re-ring it because it always ran good, and probably, you know, like a 14-second kind of ride, but still run good. But yeah, I don't know too much about these motors, and I know they have kind of a iffy oiling system, so I'm going to make sure everything's nice and clean. And the exhaust manifolds are absolute garbage, and the intake manifold is the heaviest intake I've ever dealt with in my life. But the rock arm assembly, don't know much about it, but it looks like a very stout assembly to me. So it's not adjustable, but at the same time, it looks like a very stout piece. So they got that going for it. It's kind of goofy how the push tubes go through the intake, but let's see how they go through on the intake manifold. So that's kind of a goofy design, but it is what it is. It works. That intake, it's heavier than a 500 Cadillac intake, 455 Olds intake. It's the heaviest bloody intake I've ever seen in my life. So this is just going to be a stock kind of refresh for the guy. He just wants to drive it with his kids around in his wagon. And yeah, so I'm going to pull it apart. Hopefully it hones out well. There's and get everything clean. It's going to be mainly cleaning and all the shit work to do on this thing. But yeah, it should run all right for him. I will say, like, that 352 FE we're going to build, a lot of people would say do a 428 or 390 or whatever. And yeah, more cubes always is better, but we already have it. It ran good, and it was a good little motor. And 352 cubes is like the same as most small blocks, but if you look, these things got a good size valve in them. So you got that going for it. They got good sized ports compared to most small blocks. So I think that 352 with a cam intake and a set of headers and tuned up well and everything, I think she'll make, 325, 350 horse pretty easy and be very drivable. This motor, I don't know, it's just going to be all stock pretty much. So it'll run on 87 octane and probably make about 250 horse, but it'll be plenty for the guy. Like, he knows I'm kind of into drag racing, and he says he doesn't need anything like that. He just needs something to get him from point A to point B. So we'll see as I dig into it more what kind of condition it's in. But it's, like I say, it's a bloody shame that it was stored like that, because yeah, it could have been completely preventable. It would have been a great motor for someone. You can tell it had a blue tarp on it, which is bullshit. Those tarps are freaking useless. So somehow that got in there. I was looking at the heads, and none of the valves, I just glanced at them. None of the valves looked really sunk. This one looks a bit like it's high to me, but I think it was probably open, that valve, and it's probably kind of rusted on the seat and on the back of the valve, and that's why it doesn't want to close. So I'll pull it all apart, lap it, yada yada yada. But yeah, my only other complaint is I can't stand it when people pull motors without disconnecting the converter. Disconnect the friggin' converter. It saves you no time by pulling it out like this. It's just a sloppy, disgusting job. ATF everywhere, just a pain in the ass. And Ford converters, as you know, they have studs on them, so you got to be careful when you put them in so you don't bust the pump on your tranny. But anyhow, we're going to get this freshened up for the fella, and hopefully it puts a smile on him and his kid's face, and he gets to go for many Sunday cruises for ice creams and stuff like that. And I think it's not really my kind of build, but it's what he wants, and as long as it makes him happy, that's all that matters. So alright, I hope everyone's having a good 2024 and a prosperous one at that. And take her easy, and we'll see you next time, eh? Alright, have a good one.